Hi, and welcome to the Borealis Show. Today, on this last Friday of the year, I have Cody and Jason with me today. And yeah, we'll be talking about current events and relationship and dating. And yeah, I wanted to talk about the year 2018 with you first. I hope you can all take a moment, maybe now even during my show, to reflect about everything that has happened to you or you made happen, or things that have changed in your life in 2018. I had a really interesting conversation with a friend the other day, and I asked her, like, how do you feel about 2018? Did you accomplish anything? Do you feel good about it? And she said, well, nothing really happened. And then I digged a little deeper and asked her, well, did you experience new stuff? Did you meet new people? Did you get rid of people who were not good for you? And then, yeah, she started to see that she had done quite a bit and accomplished quite a bit, and not in the conventional, not in the conventional way of achievements, but in small, tiny steps. But these steps add up at the end of the year, and if you look back and can tell yourself, yeah, I grew over the couple last months, and I sorted stuff out, I cleared things out, then I think you can be proud of yourself and see that you are moving forward and not backwards, or even if it's sideways, it's good too. Just don't stay stuck in one place. That's what I can recommend. Yeah. So, yeah, another question was, what did you create? Did you create anything? And it can be as simple as painting the walls in your house, or starting to learn to play an instrument, or going on a trip and exploring a new country and culture. So yeah, take a couple minutes or even an hour and just think about how 2018 impacted your life, and maybe also how you impacted other people's lives, because there's a couple of shows ago where I talked about the power you have on other people, like in ways, and like emotionally, how you make another person feel. And yeah, just see that you are the creator of your life. So sometimes we get caught up and think, oh, like, all these things happen to me, and how do I deserve this? But then when you let time pass by and you look back and you see, well, actually it helped me to grow, or to realize that I was on a wrong path. And I'd like you to take this into the new year and know that you have influence on other people. You have influence in your own life. You're creating your reality, and you can make things happen. And let's start our conversation with Cody and Jason today. Cody will be guiding the conversation. He has some really good topics written down here, and
I'd love to just talk about some of what you just said, though. For a bit, are you guys goal setters? Do you sit down and like actually set tangible goals for yourselves?
Not really. No.
Yeah, I'd probably say I'm about the same too. Like, it's I almost sound like the movie Dodgeball, where he talks about, you find setting goals. You're when you set them, if you don't set them, you're never really disappointed when you don't achieve them. So that's kind of almost like my philosophy in a way.
Yeah.
It's like low expectation, and although it's like I always want to achieve certain things, and I think I just have it in my mind, but I can see how writing down can be beneficial, and having that vision.
Yeah, I'm terrible at setting goals myself. It's been something that I was taught as a kid to set goals, and like my parents taught me to set goals. I was in like church youth groups, and we talked about the importance of setting goals, but it never really like stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a lot of people around me who are very good at setting goals, and I see the benefit that like they have. I feel like those people kind of get ahead of me sometimes, and maybe it's somewhat because they are committed to setting goals and they're committed to achieving those goals. I do try to like always improve, always better myself, but I think this year I'm gonna actually like try to commit to writing goals down, writing down the steps that I think it will take to achieve those goals, and breaking it down to something accomplishable, rather than just having this big lofty goal that you're like, oh, eventually I'll do this. But sometimes you got to break it down into those little steps to figure out what needs to be done to get that goal.
Yeah, well, to give yourself like a bit of direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I remember just in a lot of the gyms that I trained in, you know, you would see guys that just like their book was like a Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, they would write down their workout, you know, what the workout was that day, you know, everything, you know, else in between, you know, even writing maybe how they felt during the workout. It was just like, you know, and I think it's beneficial, that for sure, even though I never really did that, because I always just felt like I would go in and I would just put in the work. I just knew what I was going to do, how I was going to push myself. I didn't feel like I ever needed to write it down. I would always just go by feel and you know, just trust myself. But I do see the benefit in, you know, having that stuff written down, because then that way you can always go back and you can look back on like, you know, your progress or whichever. Same thing with like journaling in life, right? As you're going through struggle, it's, you know, you can almost write, you know, or go back a few months, you could read like, oh man, I was really not doing good that day, right? And where you felt like that current day, you're like, man, could today be any worse? And it gives you, you know, just a reflection period. Yeah.
Do you guys make lists at work and stuff like that? Do you have like the list of what you're going to accomplish through the day? And
yeah, like that I do. Probably, again, not as tailor-made to some people, but like, you know, I definitely try and have that list so I can see what needs to be done, and it keeps me focused, because if I don't, I can
get lost in your own
my brain will wander.
How do you feel your sphere of influence changes? How many people do you think you know really well?
How many people do I think I know really well?
How many people do you talk to on a regular basis and kind of like interact with quite regularly? You think it would be less than 50?
Oh, yeah.
Less than 50? Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, oh, yeah. Like,
I often think about, like, what is my sphere of influence? Like, how many people do I influence? How, like, can I affect change on other people? I like to talk a lot. I like to ask a lot of questions to people. And I sometimes don't realize that my sphere of influence is actually bigger than I think it is. Simply in conversations that I have, people at gyms that I go to that I don't necessarily talk to, but I, you know, try to motivate a little bit, talk to them every now and then, and I don't necessarily consider them my friends. These aren't people that I'm like really talking to, but you realize that that is within your sphere of influence, and you actually do have an effect on those people. I think we can all be a little more conscious of our sphere of influence and really try to like grow that and make it bigger.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Something that I'd definitely like to
I
continue to grow.
Yeah, like you know, and when you say that, there's times, you know, I maybe don't look at it that way, even though there's maybe things that I share on social media, or, you know, again, in face-to-face conversations with people, whether like old friends, new friends, where they, you know, maybe appreciate things I say, or, you know, it motivates them in some way, or just, again, like gets them thinking differently, you know, that I'm maybe just not aware of. Because, and I think for me personally, is that I don't want to feel like I'm, you know, just really change someone for the better, or like
Yeah.
take on that role. Like
Yeah.
I just I do want to help people, and
But you don't want to come
whichever
across
way.
as like preachy and like
Yeah, I don't want
trying
exactly.
to
No,
affect
or
people.
like that I'm trying to get people to want to like me too, or that kind of stuff. And I know I've kind of made mention of that in like previous shows, where, I just want to be who I am, speak how I speak, and if it impacts more people than I think, better. But if it only gets out to one person, then that's cool, right? Like,
Do you think it's an arrogant attitude to try to say, I want to like affect change to the people around me? I want to make the world a better place. Do you think that's like too lofty of an idea, or is that accomplishable for every person?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Because we all, make it sound super spiritual now, but we all come here with a gift that we're supposed to share. And sometimes, we withhold this gift. Like, we don't go out there and share what we could be sharing and helping people at the same time. And sometimes, we're not aware of the gift and just work in a different job and feel stuck there and get depressed. And I think every person can have a positive impact on others, and if you have that intention of helping, uplifting, empowering people, then go out there and do your best.
You said something about like maybe cutting people who are like not good for you and pull you down. I was listening to a discussion about people who are kind of a bad things always happen to me attitude, who seem to repeatedly be saying like, oh, why me? Why does this always happen to me? Life is easy for everybody else, but I just got like a bad break. And trying to like think about, do you have people like that around you that are constantly making excuses and not like, they're not really doing their part to make things better? Do you have an obligation to keep those people around? People who might drag you down a bit and like are negative people in your life.
I think I think unfortunately, I guess to me, sometimes the answer is no to that, right? Because it's those people kind of suck energy from you.
What if they're family?
Well, that's another one too, though. But like, that's the thing, is that family is, to me, you're supposed to, all love one another. But I think, that's a misconception as well. I think sometimes there's family members that can, really be, harsh critics on you, or that can, again, make you feel really bad. And I think sometimes when it comes from family, it's even worse, right? Because they're supposed to, like, love you or appreciate,
And that's sometimes the worst scenario of the crabs in the bucket situation comes from family, comes from those people that are close to, that you feel bound to, that you feel loyal to. You find they're the ones that are pulling you down all the time. And sometimes it's really hard to cut those ties and say like, okay, looking back over years, this person's constantly been negative to me. I don't think you necessarily like have to cut it off forever, but maybe cut it off for a time to get yourself in a better place. And then circle back around and see if there's something that you can do to help that relationship or help that person.
And try, for sure.
But sometimes you do have to walk away, and you have to do what's best for you. Get yourself in a better position.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it depends on how destructive and toxic that relation is for you, but I always try to force myself to get out of rescue position, like trying to help that person, and going into, maybe we can talk about something else today, and distract them from their pain. And they know I'm distracting them from talking about it, but I'm kind of holding space and listening and spending time with them without them sucking my energy. And if that doesn't work, then just push them out a little bit. But cutting out when it's family, it's, I don't know. I always try to see the other person as a teacher. And say there will be other situations where I have to deal with the same issue, and maybe I can just learn to have stronger boundaries and not feel responsible and not but I agree, it's the toughest.
It's very tough.
Yeah.
All right. Shifting slightly, I listened to a really interesting. I get kind of stuck in feedback loops sometimes.
Okay.
I like YouTube,
Yeah.
and YouTube obviously suggests things for you based on what you've watched.
Yes.
So you can start going down a rabbit hole, and it just keeps suggesting similar things to you. And then I sometimes find myself like listening to the same type of content and getting just really one side of something and not necessarily hearing the other side, and you start to form opinions.
Yeah.
And I personally really believe that you have to listen to the other side. You have to try your best to understand the other perspective if you really want to have a good understanding. And so sometimes I need to check myself a little bit and talk to other people that might have different YouTube suggestions other than like what I do. But I listened to this interesting clip that was talking about guys filming consent videos with women because they're afraid of something happening and coming back and biting them. So they're making actual consent videos and saying, before we do anything, can I get a time and a date, and you saying that you consent to have a sexual relationship with me.
Oh my God, that's how far we. That's okay.
Yeah.
Which country? U.S.
In the States, yeah. And so I think like this is kind of coming in this year. We had a lot to do with Me Too and consent and that whole, I guess, stream of thought. And like clearly, there's been some foul play, some wrongdoing. You look at Bill Cosby, Mr. Weinstein, his terribleness, and like it's clear that there's a lot of abuse in the workplace and just in life in general. But I'm wondering, like, because I've been out of the dating scene for a little while, I'm not really sure what it's like to meet someone new now and to like get into that beginning stages of maybe a sexual relationship. And I don't know, like consent's obviously a very important thing. And I just thought it was a really interesting video. I had never heard of something like that. I had never thought about that. But I was like, is this really like, one, is it necessary? Is that like totally overkill? Or is it necessary that some people have to protect themselves to say like, no, I have proof that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think that that's where we've come, and I think that's again, where, we've been so disconnected from what we believe is love and connection and all this stuff, and with Tinder and all these things, right? Like you can just, your weekend could be laid out, right? Like no pun intended. But like it's and that's the sad thing is that. So, and I think sometimes where it can get really messy is when that person like puts themselves out there with someone who's like a complete stranger, and they all of a sudden feel connected to that person from that moment, and then that person's just like a total douche or an asshole, right? And then they take that personally, and then it's like I'm gonna go after you, right? Like
vindictive.
I'm gonna get, I think there's obviously a lot of other things that you could talk about with that, but that's one thing where I think, because everyone's just out there, just putting themselves out there so easily, and then when you get hurt, you do, probably shitty things, right? Or there's the other side of it where there are those people out there that are committing shitty things, people knowing, so it's like I say, there's definitely two sides to all this stuff.
Do you think that focusing on consent, getting that like verbal consent all the time before something happens, does that take away from romance?
Oh, absolutely. So, and I can only speak from the female side when it comes to dating. I think that we have to learn to communicate better, like more than ever, and better, and because I think it's a lack of communication. There's the random sick person who's gonna rape you because you were wearing a skirt, but other than that, if it's like a healthy encounter, then give the guy like clear
Boundaries.
signs or even boundaries, but just communicate what you want, because I feel guys are, they are always exposed to not being enough, being compared to other guys, and then girls are like, oh, I have to play games because he likes to chase me, you know? And then, I don't know, you have miscommunication right there.
Do you think, like, is it more attractive to be with like a little bit more of a confident, headstrong guy who makes the moves and kind of is confident in himself and kind of like pushes a little more for what he wants and maybe makes assumptions sometimes as to what you want, rather than someone who's always questioning and maybe a little more hesitant in things? Like, is there an attractiveness to like guys just acting and like kind of making those small assumptions?
Yeah, well, I had to learn it the hard way, that guys who make strong moves, most of the time they don't make it or do it because they're overly confident. They just do it because they think that's how it's being done, and girls think like, oh yeah, that's very masculine and this is what I want, you know? So, I don't know. It's the toughest topic ever. But when it comes to attractiveness,
I find it really interesting that in this space of like talking about consent and talking about like what is like a man, how is he supposed to act, and then at the same time, like, you know, men shouldn't be aggressive, they shouldn't act in certain ways, but at the same time you have like 50 Shades of Grey, which is selling off the shelf still, and like it's all about women's fantasy about like a very manipulative and headstrong man. Like there's obviously like a romantic idea mixed in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really kind of mind-boggling to wrap your head around it.
But you have to know also that for us women, we are caught in a two-face, how do you say it, like a poker face thing. Like on one side we're being told be sexy and be attractive. On the other side, be like a little nun and the housewife, because otherwise no one wants to marry you.
Can you be sexy and attractive and a housewife?
You can, but if it is, well, if you're just trying to play that role, then you're not being authentic, and then it's just a game again. So I think even
games.
Yeah, games. And I think when you ask about attractiveness, for me, attractive nowadays is when the guy is authentic. When he tells me, you know what, like, I'm confused. Like, you are making these advances now, and I'm not sure what it means. Like, do you want this? Or, you know, when he really just speaks it out instead of assuming and then acting on it because he read it in Cosmopolitan or something. So
he was hanging out with his friends doing the checklist.
Yeah, I think guys have to be also like more verbal about what they need and want, but also trust that if they are authentic, then they will meet the right woman, and they don't need to put out this Superman and.
So what if they're not trying to put out a Superman thing? What if they just are really kind of like macho men that are like, I don't know, really aggressive by nature?
Yeah.
Do they need to like calm themselves down and change their nature a bit and like really work on that? Well, I guess like
can
everybody...
they maybe channel it? Can they channel it into sports or creativity, or not take it out on other people? I don't know. But again, if they meet a girl who wants to be the submissive little sexy girl, then it's a match.
And there are all sorts of people. And there's all sorts of matches out there that don't make sense to some people, but they're happy within their relationship.
Yeah,
and that certainly exists. Do women like taller men? you think that's like a pretty
Taller man?
taller?
Like in size?
Would you date someone shorter than you? Have you ever like been in a serious relationship with someone shorter than you?
No, but I'm lucky to not being very tall.
Oh.
Ooh, that was...
vertically challenged.
Have you ever been in a relationship with a woman who's taller than you?
No, I haven't. But
You gone on dates with women taller than you?
no, I guess I'm fortunate that I've just somehow always, been taller than any girl that I've dated or been with, and like, it's funny though, because there are guys that literally don't like that. You know, like if they're, if the girl is taller than them, it's like it's almost like a feeling of less power, like being looked down on, right? Where, because that's the thing, like a girl could wear heels, right? They could wear a high heel that brings them up to like maybe eye level with me, like, or just below. But yeah, they get that feeling of, oh yeah, now I'm like up where you are, kind of thing, right? And it can become like that little mental kind of power thing. And
it's interesting because I think it is somewhat innately within us that like we like people that are about the same size as us.
Yeah.
But generally, like guys want girls who are a little bit smaller than them. Girls like guys that are a little bit taller than them. And I have been on several dates with women who are taller than me.
Oh, yeah.
I've never had a problem with it, but they always seem like a little insecure about like guys being shorter. And even like my partner now, when she puts on heels, is slightly taller than me.
Oh, yeah.
And she'll always say like, "Oh, is it okay that like you're a little bit taller than you?" I'm like, I don't care.
She just
My big
likes you a
question
lot.
is, if you're in heels, can you run if you have to?
Yeah.
But
Oh, some guys have a huge problem with that, yeah. And I think I'm being unfair too, because when I know, like when we are in a group of friends and there's a guy who's like significantly smaller than the other guys, then I will always focus on, okay, so where is he compensating?
do you think, does he necessarily have to be compensating if he's a little bit smaller?
No, I'm just focusing on it,
Yeah.
and then of course I find something. Like
Little
he's
man
being,
syndrome, like
yeah,
where he's
little man
being
syndrome.
little, yeah.
Well,
Being a
then
little
that is
asshole.
certainly a thing.
Oh yeah, well,
the,
the scene in
the
Dogs.
bantam roosters.
Oh, it's it's
yeah.
not nice to see, but maybe I thought it's just me being like only focusing on that, because tall guys have insecurities too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But with smaller guys, they
Well,
are.
it's kind of like they had to like fight off bullying from a young age, or being
Yeah.
picked on, or things like that. And so it's over time, like I mean, I wasn't short, so I guess again I was a little bit lucky. I didn't have to really kind of fight for myself too much growing up, or carry any of that. Because I grew up with guys that were short all through hockey, and then all of a sudden had like huge growth spurts. Like by the time like they were in their late teens, right? And but then some that just had growth spurts early on. And, but yeah, usually some of those little guys, they get a little testy and fiery.
So we are seeing more women now in academia than men. Women are often, especially within the humanities, are much more prevalent and are starting to surpass men in a lot of, in the States, in a lot of the universities, and here in Canada. Within the humanities, it's more women than men. Do you think that it exists, this kind of stereotype that if the woman is now making more money and has higher education than the man, do you think that creates a bit of a conflict and a problem? Would you date someone that is less educated than you and has a worse job than you?
Oh yeah.
Would that matter?
Oh, and it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't matter.
Do you
at
find
all.
a really educated woman, is that intimidating?
No. I think, I wouldn't take it as intimidation or anything like that. Even if that's, even if a woman made more money than I did, I think it's, that's kind of like our, my parents are like old school way of thinking, and that's, talking about women's rights and where we're heading into and all this stuff. And, I don't think there's any reason why women should be treated any differently because of, their success in the work world, financial, all that kind of stuff. I think at the end of the day, what what really trumps all that stuff is just how you treat people and how happy you are and what you do day in, day out.
Yes.
You know, so.
I'm curious more so on like the female side, because I feel like it has traditionally been for a long time that the man is the breadwinner. He brings home all the money. He almost has that status position of like having more money. As things change and that role is reversed, if that's going to affect dating, if a woman who becomes very highly educated and gets a really good paying job, is she putting herself in a smaller dating pool? Because does she then maybe like intimidate other men, and does she find men with lesser education and lower paying job unattractive?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can see that. I mean, on one side, it's the men who are being intimidated and don't like to see that. On the other side, it's, yeah, she is not attracted to guys who make less money. But then there's also the point where she brings her career, ego, and drive into the relationship, and there's no like female masculine tension anymore, because she brings in the masculinity, he brings in the masculinity, and there's not this sweet tension anymore.
Does there need to be that tension?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I believe so. And it doesn't matter if the guy is more feminine and the woman is more masculine, it can still work. But if you have the same energy in the same pool, then it's just going to be a nice friendship.
Like two positives make a negative.
Yeah.
Science.
So if she meets a guy who is happy in his femininity and likes to submit and likes to be guided through life, then yeah, it works out. But if she wants the guy who's the rock in her life, but she subconsciously is being the power force all the time, then it's not going to work.
I think I think it's really interesting and fun. Like it's awesome that we're in a time when things are really changing, and we're kind of going into uncharted waters with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
This is quite new that it's happening wide scale, and like society's having to deal with these changes. Do you think that moving forward, is it an old sexist ritual for men to pay for women on dates when they take them out? Is that sexist for a man to assume that he should pay for dinner on a first date? Or is it traditional and sweet?
I think it depends how you're wired.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, for a first date, I think it's probably normal and, like, natural for a guy to, pay for the first date, or, because, I mean, who knows, I guess it depends on what you're doing. If it's not just dinner, you go somewhere else after, and, the girl wants to pay, like, I think it's, it's fine or whatever. We're in that place and time, too, where, going back to what you were saying earlier, where it's just the guy that was the breadwinner, now it's, you see, husband and wife both working jobs, right? So there's dual income coming. So, realistically, it's like, we're sharing income and we're working together kind of thing. So,
I've always kind of felt whoever asked the other person on the date should pay for it. Like if I meet you, I ask you to go out. I've invited you to like come somewhere with me. I'm gonna pay for you. But if someone asks me to go out on a date, I'm fine to let them pay for me. But I do find like I still tend to always have the mindset of like I'm always gonna pay. Like my partner's great; she pays for stuff all the time, but she has to kind of remind me like, hey, I have a job too. I work as well. Like I'll pay for this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that'd be awesome. Like sweet. But I think like a lot of people, a lot of guys have that mindset that like they have to, and
it's old school. It's it's that old school mentality again. I think where it's like opening the door for a girl, right, and things like that.
I appreciate that.
Do you like having the door open?
It's and it's I do that, and it's just funny though how some guys take that to even a different level. So like I notice sometimes like where I work, at City Hall, in an office, and you go to open a door for a guy, and you can see, feels uncomfortable that like a man is holding the door for him, right? Yeah. And you're just kind of like, trust me, man. I'm not trying to make you feel,
there is lots of awkward moments too when you hold the door for like women, and they say like, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I'm just.
I know, right?
Being
I think those are like those hardcore like
sad.
feminists. I think that's where you're getting into that world, right?
Yeah.
Where they get offended by that, or that gesture of that. Like again, it's like that old school kind of way of, just how we.
It's patriarchy is what it is.
Yeah,
Don't watch it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
No, I don't like that.
Yeah. No.
I
That
don't like that.
women
Yeah,
don't
I
like
don't know
people
what
don't
it
like it?
is.
Yeah.
That people don't like it because, I mean, the guys that I have in my life, and my friends, my boyfriend, my brother, I feel they are always eager to help, to support and to help. And if I take that away from you, then you feel like unemployed.
Somewhere.
I feel I want to support and heal and nurture. And if you come up to me and say, well, I don't need your food and I don't need your healing touch, and go away with that, I'll be like, oh, that's sad. So that's how I, like when a guy holds the door for me or wants to pay, then I'm like, okay, well, I'm receiving it, and I will reciprocate it on another level, in a different way.
So did your dad like hold the door for your mom and act out that kind of old traditional gender role?
Maybe at the beginning, but not in the later years.
I hear it. Well, I'd probably say the same from, my dad and stuff, right? Like, say, as you step into those later years, that's where those, well, like Aurora said, like, it's kind of where the guy puts in the work and then, gets his housewife, right?
Yeah.
And then then you get into those, roles of man does the work, wife does the cooking, right? And it's just, and those, I mean, my dad would buy my mom flowers for, anniversaries and, gifts and, all that kind of stuff. But, obviously it kind of comes a little less and less.
My dad was definitely a romantic, and, not all the time, obviously, but like often, and he definitely instilled in me and my brother, like you hold the door for your mom. Like when you're going to the house, like, wintertime, you make sure the walk is shoveled before mom comes outside. Like, because it's nice. She shouldn't have to worry about that. She's got enough stuff going. Like that old kind of chivalry thing was really important to him. And so he like passed that down to us. But I wonder, like within 2 generations, say, if no one does it, that's just gonna like slide away. Will that be a sad bad thing, or will society just move on? New customs and norms will be put in place, and that's just that.
Yeah, I think it could be a sad bad thing, right? Because we lose that, and this is even maybe coming back to like your beginning, talk, and just in the way men treat women, right? So, when I grew up, if I treated my mom, like if I talked to her like disrespectfully, like I'd be no, like, oh, I would pay for it, right? And so I never did, right? Like, I mean, when I was, earlier than 5 years old, I did little things to like, annoy my mom. My mom hated me, but still loved me. But like, once I got into like early teens and that kind of stuff, like, I mean, if I talk to my mom in the way that I see some of my friends talk to their mom, my dad would, like, it wouldn't be good. Like, I would be, it's like, do not, So, I think, my dad really taught me how to respect, like women, and there were times maybe where, I pushed that at times out of, frustration and anger, where you would say hurtful things to someone and you regret that. But it's like your emotions can easily get the best of you sometimes, and it's like being aware of it. And,
So gift giving has been a part of courtship for quite a long time. As men court women, traditionally, the man has gone out, found the woman, pursued her, courted her, given her gifts, and like showed his affection that way. Is gift giving still an important part of courtship, or is that now kind of moving into like what do you expect with these gifts? Is there like a negative connotation that like if a guy gives a girl something, maybe now she owes him, and like that gets into a sticky situation that way?
That's a problem of receiving and not of giving gifts, because I find that's a beautiful way of showing love and affection. But if the other person refuses to accept it and receive it, then yeah, it's his or her problem and not the person who's giving.
Yeah.
And if it's your way of showing your girlfriend you love her and she doesn't want to accept it, then yeah, you have a problem. But you don't have to work on maybe you can show your affection in different ways then, but I learned, because I struggled with that for a long time, that I have to see that I don't want to receive from this person. And is it because I don't like this person? I don't want to be intimate with that person? Or is it that I'm scared, that I have to give something in return that I don't have?
So is it best to not receive those gifts? If someone is pursuing you and is clearly trying to court you and is like, entering into that gift-giving kind of stage, do you need to turn that down and say like, no, I'm not going to take these gifts, I'm not interested in kind of going further? Because in accepting, you are consenting to like go further.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So just don't see it as a just material thing. See it as a message, like I want to be close to you, and then check in and say, do you want to be close to that person? Yeah or no? But you cannot accept the gift and then say no. That doesn't work.
And and I think like gifts at times now too have just become a little out of control. Like you know, and this comment could upset a lot of the moms out there, but I'll say it anyway. This is just in terms of like how I know guys that their wives, it's like they're expected to buy a push present. So that's that because she's giving birth to their child, you're supposed to buy them a gift for that. And I don't know. I mean, my mom and I'm sure grandma's like prior to this, like I don't remember them getting any kind of like diamond ring or something, some kind of jewelry
for enduring the difficulties of childbirth.
Yeah, like, and don't get me wrong, I like women going through pregnancy and giving birth, like they're so much stronger than we are, right? Like that's why they're like that's why we like women are so strong, and that's I think where that side of power and all that stuff gets messed up too. But yeah, like they're they can go through a lot and endure a lot physically, because I would never know what that experience is like. But sometimes I feel like there's this whole side of push present thing, and
I think you can get really messed up in the like material side of things. Really the greatest gift that you should be giving after that point is your time and your attention. Like okay, you went through all this, like now I'm gonna like devote time to making sure your needs are met, making sure that you have time. Like, I have some really good examples in my life of men who, well, one, they appreciate fitness, and they have fitness agreements, we'll say, that were made before, in the early stages of dating, saying, okay, we're going to live a really fit life, this is the lifestyle we want to live. And then when their wives have kids, they say, okay, I need to make sure that I give them enough time to go to the gym, for example. You come home from work, that, like if you've been busy with the kids all day, say, I'm going to give, like, okay, the kids are with me, you've got 2 hours to go spend you time, to go do your thing, to like, you don't necessarily have to go to the gym, but you can do what you want to do with that, like 2 hours of time. I recognize that you've been stepped on, your hair pulled, you've had no personal space all day long, and you need a bit of time to yourself.
Yeah.
And to pursue whatever you want to pursue, and to still have hobbies, and to still be an individual and an independent person. I think really that gift of time.
Well, and everything changes, like drastically, right? For the families and things like that, right? Like when kids are in the mix and they're there all the time, right? Like it can really, you see moms that they need that break. They need that like time to just recharge and like talk to an actual person. Like,
I know my sisters complain a lot about being stuck in the house with kids all day long and never having adult conversations. And my brothers-in-law are accountants during tax season. It's madness, and they hardly talk to their husbands during that time. And they're like, "Oh, I just need to talk to like another adult. I need to just have that conversation." I think you really got to learn to manage your time. Not the greatest at time management, but I think it's really important.
Yeah, that's true.
So traditionally, it's been kind of acceptable that a guy spends about a quarter of his yearly wage on an engagement ring.
What?
Yeah, about 3 months. 3 months' wages is what's kind of the acceptable thing for an engagement ring.
I never did.
As we move forward into a time when, during courtship, the women may very well be making more than the men.
Yeah.
Is that still a proper ideal? Is that necessary? Is an engagement ring really important? Do you want one?
Do you want one?
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I talked about it today with a friend. That's funny that you mentioned this. Yeah, I used to think that it's really important for me to show that I'm engaged and committed and everything. Not so much anymore, but it's still important enough to me to, if I chose my person, like my mate, I want to end up with for the rest of my life, then I'd like to have a little ring. But the price, you were asking about the amount of money you spend on that ring, or
like
if
how
you
much value, not monetary value, but like how important is that engagement ring? Is there a sense of worth tied to it? Like,
No.
I wonder, like,
No.
being a guy, like, I don't really know, when girls get together, and like, I'm sure you can't help but compare a little bit, like, oh, he spent this much on my ring, like my husband only spent this much on mine. Like, does that make a person feel less valuable?
Less love.
Well, it depends on how you compare yourself to others in general. No? And I try not to. And I mean, I'm new in this, on this continent, and it's easy for me, maybe. But as a guy, I would make the engagement ring as as unique and authentic, like, to my how do you say, proposal as possible, and not comparable to anything else on the market. But it's
a lot of stress, though.
That's just
find something that's not comparable to anything else. That's like really unique and
but
special.
just create it, and
but
then
then
if you want, if you want this woman for the rest of your life, then make it last, like not just a. But it doesn't have to be like 30,000.
Well, I think it's easy to take out like a line of credit, right? Throw yourself in debt to get that big ring.
It just seems so.
And then you're just
silly.
like, what was that accomplishing or proving, right? And
that's the market, though. Like that's what like a diamond commercial tells you. Like, prove that you love her. Get that big diamond ring.
I've been down that road before, man. So, and I probably haven't spent like a fraction of what I think some of my friends have probably spent on engagement rings and wedding bands for their now wives and things like that, right? And
you've been down that road.
Yeah. I've been
Did
down
you get
that
the
road.
ring back?
Yes, I did. Yeah, but then it's, you know,
Ouch.
the thing. Well, the thing is though, it's it's funny because you can spend so much on that, but let's say if it doesn't work out, and whether you get it back or you know, you let the person keep it, give it back, it's appraised at this much, but no one's gonna buy it off of you for that much. It's really it's worth like a third of what you paid for it.
Depreciates as soon as you purchase it.
Because it's like who's buying that, I guess, right? Or, you know,
who buys used rings?
Yeah, well, I guess, right? Like, you know, it's bad luck, I guess. So why would I buy it for the, like, you know? And, you know, if a guy bought a ring like that, I mean, the last thing he'd probably want that girl that he's going to give it to know that he got it at, like, you know, for this smoking deal, and it was, like, once an engagement ring to someone else that didn't work out.
I got this ring for a smoking deal. You're going to be so happy.
So, I mean, that's just, my experience with it a little bit. And, I mean, you know, it's again, it's kind of old school, but at the end of the day, I don't think that is like a true indicator of, you know, what that person means to you. You know, you can spend as much money as you want. Same thing with the weddings, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have friends that got married like 10 years ago and, you know, took out, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, and then they're sitting there thinking like, man, like, you know, like,
I hardly remember the night.
I
was so stressed because I was like messing around.
Yeah, but you know, you're just, that's what everyone wants to do, and celebrate their weddings, celebrate their love, and it's that same thing about the size of the ring and comparing, you know, that wedding was so awesome, right? And then the other one's like, oh, they did this wrong, you know? Too many speeches, you know, or like too many.
Come away from weddings.
It wasn't an open bar. What the?
Oh man. Actually, people drink more at toonie bars, I feel, than actual open bars.
Yeah.
It's craziness. How important do you feel it is to be completely honest in a relationship?
Not important at all.
Like, completely honest.
No. Like, no.
No.
Not at all.
Just do what you want and
it
make
is
those
so
stories.
critical, I believe. It is so critical, and we don't even measure. I think that's how you build trust. Like, in sharing stuff that is uncomfortable and being transparent, and you cannot go without it. I used to think it's possible.
Yeah.
No, I was running into the same wall over and over again, and honesty is not comfortable. It's not beautiful at times. It's super ugly, but you can see how the person reacts, how the person receives it, if they accept you for your honesty and for the reality you live in, and then the feedback you get tells you I can trust that people, or I should move on.
So if you ask your partner, do I look good in this? And he doesn't think you do, should he tell you? Not really.
Yeah.
Even if you're going to get upset about it?
I learned, like, in the last years to not be too attached about my physical appearance and everything. And so, of course, if I like that dress and that skirt and I think I look great, then it would be like kind of, but I would trust that my partner would tell me the truth, not to hurt me, but to protect me, maybe, or to,
Do you find you change your partner's, like, appearance a bit? Has that happened to you before? Or, like, your opinion of clothing and your opinion of, not like clothing necessarily, but like a way of dressing. Have you ever seen, like, someone else really change because of your influence and, like, what you like and what you don't like?
No, because I always tell them be comfortable. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of, but I know sometimes for me, and not through, like clothing that, but just, doing things that person, I think I know they would like or want me to do. And this even goes back to one of, like, the first times we were on the show together. It's, sometimes where yeah, it's because you're in that early state of the relationship, right? And you kind of get what that person likes, or you think you know, and so then you're just like, oh, I'm gonna, behave this way, right? Because I want this person to really connect with me as well. And you're saying that you're not like being that true self. And but yeah, it's more than ever now. I just be me, and because I know I can change anything about me, right? But then that's the thing, is that if you're doing that, then what is that? How is that making you feel? So I love changing and doing things differently. Whether it's playing music, listening to different kinds of music.
You like to change?
Yeah, I kind of do. I think. I think it's to stay, in that same wheel, or in that, be in that, like, perceived as that same person. I don't know. I don't want to go through life like that. Life changes. Everything's changing. The world's turning, whether we like it or not. So, it's embracing and working through the change, because change is hard, though it is. Like, as much as I kind of like it, I like the fact that, I could grow out my hair if I want to right now, because I got it. And, I can be that stereotypical yogi dude that's going to have like a man bun and shit, right? And
nice beard,
everybody's going to bug me. Yeah, I'll probably just have a mustache, though. I'll keep just a stash, and I won't do the beard.
It's looking good.
I think so, yeah. And just like all those things, right? Like, I don't know, maybe it's my way, too, of, just kind of toying with people. Because, as long as I'm having fun, or, enjoying what I'm doing, it's like that's the main thing.
Do you think that, I know I do, at the beginning of relationships, you want to impress each other. You want to, always look your best and look good. And slowly over time, the true, dirtbag Cody comes out. Like, oh, you wear flannel all the time, and you're always dirty. And, just my...
Or just walk around naked.
While at home, my effort, I guess, goes down a little bit in, wanting to impress your partner. Do you
physically,
think
your appearance?
Yeah, just the effort that I put into looking good.
So you're really testing to see how much that person likes you now? So as I start taking these things away,
as I start to digress and downgrade, you see who I really am. I'm dirty and stinky.
If she starts wanting to spend less time with you, then you're like, okay, she doesn't like the real Cody. This has probably got to stop, right?
Okay, so...
But if she wants to spend more time, then you're like,
so getting to know someone, how long does it take to really get to know someone?
It depends how long you do the BS game.
Yeah.
How your endurance to stick to it, how sustainable your tactique is, and
Do you guys both believe in marriage?
Yep.
It's the goal within a relationship.
Yeah.
Do you know that the data suggests that if you start living together and start a sexual relationship prior to getting married, you're more likely to get divorced?
Yep.
No, I didn't know about that.
My sister has sent me that, through a Facebook thing in previous relationships, and it's funny because I'd always read it and just be like, it's just stupid Facebook statistics, and whoever wrote this, right? And
they're just out to get you.
Well, but I mean, that's such a hard thing, I think, to put a actual if you're doing this and this, because I think it basically said if you start living together before 2 years, then you're destined to get divorced, right? But I mean, how many people, when you get into that relationship, you just stay over at that person's house, all the time, because it's just that.
Well, it's more convenient.
Exactly.
Together, you're going to be there anyway,
right? And so it's easy to just do that nowadays, right? And but
so I was told by a good friend of mine, probably my oldest childhood friend. I've been friends with forever. He's a social psychologist, and when I moved in with my girlfriend, he's like, I'm not pushing you one way or the other, but I'm just telling you, the data shows. This is not.
Data never lies.
This is not an argument. This is what's most likely to happen. if
But
you
it
guys start
motivated,
living,
it motivated you to keep doing what you did, no?
I do what I'm gonna do. I
you're
just
still with this girl.
just
I
kind of
hate
fly by the
data.
seat of my
I hate
pants.
data.
But he said straight out, like, you are more likely to, like, not work out in a long-term marriage if you live together first.
Wow.
But that's totally the mindset of most young people is
Yep.
it takes a long time to get to know someone.
Yep.
So we're going to date, we're going to live together for a couple of years, and we'll really get to know each other. And if after a couple of years it works,
Yep.
then we'll get married. But the data shows that you're more likely to get divorced if you do that.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Shitty. No, it doesn't make you feel shitty because I know you can, if you have the mindset, no, if you approach the new relationship, like both sides, and with the intention, I want to really get to know this person. I want to know who I'm with, and not, I want a relationship because everyone has it. I might end up getting married and having kids and have a beautiful house. If you really intend to get to know that person, then you will relate to each other on very deep levels than you would if it's just hanging out and having fun with friends. And I find, like, especially the sex connection, when you can achieve to not indulge completely or not become this paralyzed little sex bunny, you know, that is constantly thinking about it and when can we do it again, and when you experience it but don't let it rule everything out of a sudden, then you can keep getting to know a person, because I think that's what is happening a lot, that you have sex early on and then stop getting to know the person on an emotional level, stop asking questions, and if you can be aware of that, how powerful the sex drive is.
It is. It's a very powerful thing that we.
And we are all sexual beings. I believe, like maybe super religious people don't want to see it that way, but I see it that way. But if you learn how to channel that energy and not let it rule your life, then it's really possible to get to know a person. Even though you live on there.
I think it is like really easy to get into that situation where you meet someone, you start dating, things get hot and heavy, you move in together. Like I've been in that situation a couple times, and it can be dangerous in the sense that, like, I've never thought about it this way, but like it was brought to my attention. The question was asked, like, what, are you just trying her on like a shirt? Like, is it like are you just trying this person on for a little bit and to see if it, I'm going to try it on, wear it for a couple of years, see if I like it or not. And after a couple of years, if I don't, I'll just kind of like get a new shirt. Like, well, that's kind of an offensive way to think about people. But like, I think that does kind of sometimes happen sometimes. But I think like
that's a misconception of connection, right? With people, is that we sometimes just put it all into the physical, right? Because that's the only way. Like once you've kind of put that out there with each other, like being in that vulnerable position, and all that, it's almost like you've just kind of gotten past all the other drama or all the other like shit that you've been through in life. Like you feel like you've totally opened yourself up to that person, and it's like, and if it's a good connection, then you're just like, oh yeah, sweet, now we don't have to talk about the other stuff.
Oh, I think your hormones and your brain, they trick you into, oh yeah, this is the one. It feels so good, and let's forget about everything else.
I think like as we move forward in this kind of uncharted territory of how dating is going, and like how relationships, it seems like, divorce was really prevalent when it kind of first was acceptable, and now it's slowing down a little bit. And then for me, like, I really like to see long-lasting relationships.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the family, and I think like I don't have kids yet, but I would like kids. I think they're really important for personal development, and
But it was not always the case. I remember.
not always. No,
yeah.
it's been
what
a
changed it?
a fear of being old and alone.
Oh.
Just like, you can have all your stories of your
Yeah.
adventures of when you were young,
Yeah.
but eventually someone needs to take care of you because you're going to get old.
It's true.
And like when
Circle
my
of
body's
life.
broken, because my body will be broken because of how I've
Yeah.
used it. My stories will no longer be that important, and I want people around me that I've built those relationships with. I want kids who I've put
Wanna
time in
teach
with.
them.
I hopefully they'll want to spend time with me. And that's not always the case. There's lots of
Oh, yeah.
people who
Yeah.
that's one thing that I think our society really does wrong is like the old folks' homes.
Yeah.
That we just ship our old off to these homes. They sit day after day and wait for their kids to come visit them, and they don't. And it's like the most depressing place you can go and visit. But at least they have that hope of their kids coming to visit them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like that end of the line feeling, and that's a scary. When that day comes, it's just I'm like, oh man, right?
Yeah.
Like
I don't want to like sound like selfish, like, well, when I'm old, like I want someone to really care about me and like take care of me. I think it's all throughout life. I don't know, like you have a dog, you really love your dog. I think it has to be like tenfold when you have a kid and you come home and they're waiting to see you and they're part of you. They got your genetics. That's pretty neat. You also have your partner's genetics. That's pretty neat. Just watching them unfold and grow up. It's cool. Our time is nearly up.
Oh no. I saw this question up here. You didn't ask it.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
it's
didn't.
not important to you anymore. But
It is important actually. I was so consent regarding alcohol is what she's pointing to.
okay.
So if a guy is drunk and a girl cracks onto him and they end up going home together, is that acceptable?
So like a girl takes home a drunk guy.
Well, I'm not even going to say like hammer drunk, just like
Okay.
girl comes into the scene, clearly a guy's had a few drinks,
Yeah.
he's trying hard to impress her, and he's ready and willing, and they go home together
Yeah.
because he's been drinking. Is that okay? Or change it over. The guy's out, girl's been drinking, she's clearly had a couple drinks, she's feeling good, she's
one
ready and willing.
saying that, yeah, she's ready and willing, and not. But one could, I guess, look at that or say that a guy is taking advantage of that person, right? Because if they're drunk, like say, not that they're like blackout drunk, right? But they obviously, they're intoxicated to a degree, like where
Our
they're not maybe
inhibitions
thinking
go down
things.
when we
Well,
drink,
100%,
like, this is-
right? So I mean, you could see it at the bar all the time, right? Like
All the time,
and so I guess the other way around, if a girl wants to confront a guy like that, I don't know. I guess you could look at it the same way, where she's maybe taking advantage of a situation, but I guess that's how it is when you're out in those environments, though. Like when you're in the bar and you're drinking like that, and you're losing control of your emotions and and the situation. That's, I guess, I don't know. It's an easy place where anyone's going to take advantage of you.
I think advantage is taken often, and I do think it goes both ways.
I was gonna say,
But
yeah,
I-
both
I-
ways.
Oh yeah.
Do you think, like in my experience, it's more likely that if a guy's drunk, it's fine. Even if he wasn't like super stoked on the situation, he's still going to get high fives and like, yeah, you hooked up with the chick. And that's just the mentality. Whereas girls might be a little more hurt by maybe rejection afterwards if things don't work out, or if she really wasn't into it and it happened. Like, it's just less likely for there to be repercussions if it's the guy who is more drunk than the girl. But well, like I don't know. I think this relates really to a deeper question of mine of this talk of rape culture on campus that I think is actually a bit of a misnomer. I think there's a serious substance abuse problem on campus. I think the way that alcohol is treated, when you have young kids who are leaving their homes, going out to an environment where heavy drinking is happening, when they're not used to drinking that much.
Well, initiation.
That's
and
like the
clubs.
real problem. I think sex happens in those situations, but the problem is that those situations are there. I think like the drunk, like partying of universities in particular is the problem in and of itself, and that the like rape culture that goes with it is just a byproduct of the substance abuse.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's I mean, you see it on like certain social media feeds. Like there's this thing on Instagram called Barstool Sports. I think a lot of people follow, and they have some funny posts, but you see a lot of like any post that has to do with like collegiate stuff. It has to. It's like drinking. It all revolves around drinking, right? And it's you see it in movies, you see it in all this stuff, right? You know, that's what college life is supposed to be about, right?
That has totally become like the experience that you're supposed to have. You're supposed to go away to college and just get hammered out every night, not do anything for your first year because you were too drunk to remember. And it's just such a wasteful time, and it's hurting a lot of people. One
of the things that I learned, and I apply to it now to my day-to-day life, and whether that's drinking, training, or anything like that, is I use the lottery slogan: "Know your limit, play within it." Right? So, like, don't you know? I still want to have control over my actions and you know, and situation, and you know, I think you can feel or sense when you get to that point where you lose that. And I just, you know, to have that feeling again, it's not something I want to go back into.
Definitely don't want to backslide to the university
No,
days.
I don't want to rehash the glory days. I don't want to.
Anything else you want to say on that topic?
No, well, there's so much to say. I think
totally
you have
get
to come
into
back.
That would have been a rabbit hole again, man.
I think we'll wrap up for today.
Sure.
But you will be very welcome to come back, both of you.
Yeah, sweet.
And
it's like a happy topic.
Well, just on closing off, you know, we've talked a lot about dating today and just different scenarios of things that can happen and what's expected from each other. And as we've said, like, we are kind of entering into new territory. Online internet dating, webcams, like there's just everything's so different now. Just really encourage people to like make those real connections, to communicate, to talk with each other, to treat each other well, to make decisions for the long term. Think like what's going to treat me well in the future? What am I going to be happy with moving forward? Just make good decisions.
Yay! I like that. I like that. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming here today. And you beautiful people out there, thank you so much for tuning in, for supporting my show. And I wish you all a happy new year, 2019, and I'll see you on January 4th. Take good care of yourself. Bye.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.